Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Hi, everybody. It's Julie Schrager from Nothing But Julie podcast. Hope you're all doing well, and happy Thursday to you guys. I'm so excited because I'm finally interviewing a very good friend of mine who I've actually known since high school, and her name is Shari Coltune. Hey, Shari, how you doing?
Hello. Hi, Julie. Actually, we've known each other, I think, since middle school. You sat in front of me.
You know what? You're right. We've known each other. Oh my gosh, we've known each other.
I just
a long
aged
time.
us. I know.
God, stop. Well, anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Shari. Aside from her being an awesome person, she has been an integrative life coach for 10 years, and she's also a founder of It's a Gem, where she sells healing crystals for all kinds of desires and needs. And she's been helping people learn proven skills to lower the voice of the inner critic, to set boundaries and make peace with themselves through something called shadow work, which we'll be discussing, therefore raising the voice on the inner cheerleader. So, Shari, let's just get right into it. Could you describe what an integrative coach is?
So integration is is wholeness. So it bridges the gap of everything. So when I talk integration, when you're integrating aspects of yourselves, qualities of yourself, it's all about bridging the gap of what's out there into your internal world, so you can build yourself up from the inside out.
Sounds really awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and it's based on the concept of wholeness. We are born whole.
right.
We have every quality. I mean, look at a baby, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're not questioning, am I drinking the bottle right? Is this okay?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
How do
and
you,
at some point, right.
in your experience, like how, I don't know if you can describe like your own personal, history, but I'm just curious. I mean, how do people become unwhole? Is it just life itself, being brought up by certain parents, siblings, friends, environment?
When we are young, we do not know how to make sense of the world. Okay. We just don't. We're playing on the playground and we're happy-go-lucky children, and something can happen. A teacher can give you a side look, a sibling can say something, a parent, something, or some kind of situation happens, an experience. And what happens is, because we do not know how to make sense of the world, we go into what's called meaning making. We make an interpretation based on that experience. Normally, we make an interpretation that is more geared towards the negative. Humans are just more apt, I guess is the word, to look at the negative. And
That's very true.
so we go into negative meaning making. So, if your mom, says something like, don't eat that cookie because you'll get fat. I'm just saying,
Right. Yeah.
then you could go into, oh, I better not, I must be bad. Or, I want to be loved, so I better not, eat that, or something happens.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, a baby doesn't go into, am I drinking the bottle right? But at some point, we disconnect from that whole part, and we get what's the word? Some kind of shame or embarrassment, some kind of blushing in our body that we do not want to be something or like something. So there's the disconnect.
It seems so much easier to become a negative inner person than
Hmm.
positive. It seems like being positive is so much more work. I remember when I had my son, I was reading this incredible book. It was a How to Talk so kids will listen, how to talk to your kids
Yeah.
so they will. I don't
Hmm.
remember the full title. I actually taught a class on it, but anyway,
Hmm.
I learned a lot about how to talk to my son, which you just said. So instead of saying him, don't do that, I
Hmm.
gave him options. If you do this, you can maybe have this, or if you do this, this will happen, but in a positive way. And then I
Right.
started realizing how incredibly negative I was and like the negative life that I was leading. And it kind of helped me change, how I was feeling about myself. That was just with raising my son. But hearing you
Right.
talk about this, I know there's got to be so many adults out there that are just walking around with such negativity and maybe they don't even realize it.
Well, yeah, because what happens is when we are developing, and again, our belief system, we form beliefs very early on about ourselves. I'm unlovable, I'm stupid, I'm, an idiot, I am, unworthy, I'm undeserving, I am not a good person, I'm selfish. Whatever it is we can't be with, we will spend our unconscious lifetime go on autopilot, but we want to squash it like a bug,
Mm,
because the fear of somebody thinking that we are all the list that I just named,
yeah,
can cause a lot of anxiety, can
sure.
cause a lot of self-loathing, and there again becomes more disconnect. So a lot of people are walking around on autopilot,
Yeah.
beating themselves up, blaming the outer world,
Yeah.
you know, going into people pleaser for the need to be validated, loved, nourished. And it causes a lot of problems, and it causes a lot of problems internally, not in just the internal conversation, but it can affect how you feel. And therefore, a lot of people walking around with autoimmune issues is because
Yeah.
they're just so disconnected from themselves.
Right. Well, I mean, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, what got you interested in being an integrative coach?
I grew up, I had a learning disability, and back in the day, it wasn't
I had no
really
idea.
spoken. Yeah, it wasn't spoken about, but
Right, right.
I was dyslexic, and, I had processing issues. So because of that, I went into shame that I'm stupid. Also, I had family members that, I mean, it could be typical sibling stuff,
Yeah.
but my siblings used to really, call me every name in the book. You're dumb, you're stupid, you're the R
Mm,
word, whatever.
yeah.
So then me having a learning disability, I'm like, oh, it must be true.
Oh, God.
And so I really spent my life, and what happens is you end up spending your life, again, unconsciously proving
Yes.
what you don't want to be or what you
Hmm.
have shame about. So I would latch on to that. And I didn't finish college. And so that became a regret. And I just lived my life pretty angry. And I got sick. I got really sick.
Hmm.
And I was a couch potato in fear. And I remember saying to my husband, I need life skills.
Yeah.
Like, my life is passing by. I'm miserable, and I'm just a bitter couch potato, and there has to be more to life. I always thought that there was more to life.
Sure.
And then one day I saw a movie called The Shadow Effect, which is with Debbie Ford, who is my mentor and teacher,
Hmm.
Deepak Chopra, and Marianne Williamson. And when I saw that movie, every single bell in my brain went off. And I'm like, what? What? You
Right.
can be stupid and smart?
Oh
Because
God.
Julie, anytime I had a smart moment, which is so funny when I think about it now,
When
but
I had a
anytime I had
smart
this
moment.
smart moment,
Yeah.
it shocked me.
Oh.
And I was like, what is that? That's just not, because my identity
Well, I was going to
was,
say, yeah, your identity.
yeah, I identified with being stupid. So
Ugh.
if I was smart, if I had a smart moment, I was like, what? So it scared me. And then I would go back into proving the stupid. It's very, very fascinating.
It's like a
So
vicious cycle until you find out, until you would start
yeah,
realizing what's going
yeah.
on.
So when I saw this movie and I was like snotting, you know, that kind of cry
Yes.
when it's like comes from the toes, you
Yes,
know,
I do.
like visceral. So I I grabbed my computer and I knew I had to meet Debbie Ford. I'm like, who is this person?
Yeah,
As
wait a
I'm looking
minute.
at my picture.
I think
What?
I remember this when you were going through this, and I think you had started off with talking about going back to college and that you had gotten life credits, but then you decided to get into this and you took a picture with her shortly
Oh
before
yeah.
she passed away or something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
have. I'm looking at her picture, me and her right now. She's always at my desk.
Oh,
She she's there when I'm coaching my clients. You know, she's my
oh,
like inner voice. You know, she's the voice of my inner cheerleader now.
oh,
So
that's
I
nice.
when I met her, I remember saying to her, "What is this? You can be stupid and smart. What is this? You can be selfish and selfless.
Mm.
You can be mean and kind. What is this?" And I'm like, I need to know. And she said, you know, I can really see you working with me. You know, what's your inclination? I was like, work with you.
Oh,
So I joined, I signed on for this year-long certification. And I will tell you, talk about manifesting life skills. You know, this type of shadow work is about integrating all of the qualities that we have tried to hide and suppress and deny.
mm.
We will do everything to overcompensate, to put the mask on so we are not that. We spend
Right.
our lives focusing in and focusing on not being something,
Wow.
not being something. And again, not being something.
Right.
So when you integrate that, it's like, you know what? Yeah, there are many times I'm stupid without the shame now. Now I'm not embarrassed of it. My daughter just had a baby and I did something with like the ounces of the milk and my daughter's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm not doing any math homework with him." you know. So because I have no shame in it, right? There's no shame in it. And then I can see how there are so many more moments that I'm brilliant.
Yeah.
And there's the integration.
Mm.
And it became a very fascinating self-discovery journey.
That's cool.
And each integration of a quality is you raise your vibration, you raise your confidence, so you raise the voice of your inner cheerleader. And it's fascinating.
Did you feel like completely free, or it was like a freeing experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you have a quality, which we all do,
Mm-hmm.
we all have something that the fear of somebody else thinking or knowing this about you can put us in a tailspin.
Hmm.
So Debbie Ford has spoken about her need to not be a bitch. And when she was giving a talk, somebody screamed, "You're a bitch." And her thought was, well, I know that. How do you know that?
Ha!
And that rang a bell because my brothers used to call me like a bitch, you're a bitch. And that word never stung me.
Hmm.
It was like, oh, yeah, because I always equated bitch with like strength.
Yeah.
But somebody else can be called, like Debbie Ford could be called bitch, and just like her tail will go in between her legs.
Hmm.
There's always a gift in owning of every quality. Me believing that I was stupid had me longing to learn. I just
Yeah.
learned differently.
Yeah. And
So yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I had a processing issue in high school as well. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget, my mom kept getting me tested and tested and tested. IQ test, the Rorschach, this and that. Like, what's wrong with my daughter? Nothing. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with your
Right.
daughter, except for the fact that, like you just said, I learned differently. And because of at the time when you and I went to school was meant for either struggling children or gifted children. But for the average student, they did not have any means to help. And I felt that I was not even an average student like you. I felt like I had half a brain. And then after I graduated, I started realizing what was going on. Like I had to figure it out myself. And I realized, and I was doing a lot of research, that I had a processing issue. And I just had to be taught a different way. And it actually came to fruition when I had my son, because he learns very much like I learned. And
Hmm.
I started teaching him in a way that I would understand it. And it was amazing how he got it in the snap of a finger versus how he was taught at school. And
Yeah.
it had nothing to do with me or with my son at the time, that we were not intelligent human beings. It was, we just can't learn like you or like you. And I grew up being so envious because my sister was, and still is, very, very smart. And she has a photographic memory, and she would not go. Remember the Regents courses where it didn't
Yeah.
matter
Hmm.
what your grade was, but if you don't pass that Regents, you fail. Well, she never went to this business English class that she and I were both in. It was an elective. She never went. I went every day. I studied my ass off, and I literally remember just passing the Regents. And she,
Yeah.
the night before, read all of the notes and that she got from a friend of hers, and she passed it with like an A. And I remember being so angry. And then I realized that we're just two totally different people with two different ways of learning. And that stigma of me feeling stupid and
Well,
not having,
yeah.
right,
Hmm.
it actually, like you just said, made me want to actually learn more. There was more of a challenge now for me to find
Well,
ways on how to
also, it's
learn.
like I would invite you to even go back and look at what did you make that experience mean?
Ugh,
And then go even further down, younger,
yeah.
and where did you form that belief? Because
Yeah.
and you can have, obviously we have more than one shadow belief, because it really is a shadow belief. We make meaning out of something, which forms a belief.
What exactly does that mean when you say like shadow work? Like, how is it applied to your clients?
So the shadow work is anything that's hidden in the depths of our unconscious mind, in our operating system. That's how we operate. We operate on autopilot. So we're operating unconsciously. And again, anything that we are, how we're operating, I mean, I keep saying that word, but it's true. It's like, there's a what did you make that experience mean? That I am. So any I am statement, like I am stupid,
Hmm.
right? So what do you make that mean? What kind, you can say, what kind of person is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
We can go into, I mean, I can have this conversation in so many different, it's like an octopus times a billion, on how, the shadows are formed very early on
Hmm.
in our life based on an experience. Again, that meaning making, that we don't know how to make, how to interpret it.
Yeah.
It's not like when you're little, you could say, what does this mean?
Right. Well,
And
exactly. Yeah.
we're left to our own devices. So we make it mean something negative for the most part.
Yeah.
We
That's
just
just the way
do.
the brain goes sometimes,
Yeah.
to the
Yeah. It
negative.
just is. Yeah.
And,
And then,
and your
in order
parents
to,
can't do anything because they try to talk you through it sometimes. And you just, when you're a kid, you don't want to hear it. Or sometimes they don't know,
well, I
for
mean,
help.
right. Again, you're not, if the school teacher, I mean, it could be like a rolling of the eyes.
Hmm.
Somebody can make, I mean, listen, are you ever around somebody and you're having a conversation and maybe they roll their eyes or maybe they rub their nose, and we are always mentalizing.
Mm.
We are always in an internal conversation. So if somebody you're talking to, you're sharing something and maybe they look away, for a brief second,
Yeah.
you will pay attention
Yeah.
to what you say to yourself. It's so true.
I
Pay,
hate when
like,
people do that. I hate when I'm
but maybe,
talking and I
but
know
me, see,
it
you're
means
in
something.
meaning making, right? So
Yeah.
you're interpreting that as meaning something personal to you
You know why
when
though?
it really could just be they looked away. Maybe they had something in their contact.
Absolutely. And I remember
Yeah,
this was pre-COVID. I had gone out to lunch with a friend when, we used to go out and hang out. And I remember that she would
back in the
talk
day.
back in the day. She would talk to the point where I was like literally almost done eating my lunch. And then I would start talking about things. And I just remember every single time I would speak with her, she very rarely looked at me. She was always looking around. She did not have something in her contact lenses, but I was just kind of, I'm a businesswoman and I was brought up with, business and a business brain. And one of the first things I learned was eye contact, eye contact. So when I see people not doing it, I'm like, hey, why aren't you looking at me? I was just listening to you for 20 minutes rambling on. Why are you not looking at me? And I know it might be a thing, or at the same time, it might be like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's a pay attention. I just remember being like, look at me. And I didn't know if that was like a negative thing about me or if it was just that, I didn't know how to really size her up with it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, again, looking at what did you make that mean? What is the need there? What
Right.
is the story you are telling yourself? Because that's another thing too, that we go into story. And it can end up being very dramatic, or it can talk us into something, it could talk us out of something.
Mm.
So, what I tell my clients too, and I invite you to think about this as well, Julie, is when something comes up, right? Like your friends, look at me, I'm needing that. What did you make that experience mean? But also, what is the story you're telling yourself?
Hmm. It's interesting. Yeah, you know what? I don't know if it was a negative thing or if it was more like
Mm-hmm.
I think that when we're brought up, we're brought up to think and believe certain things. And the one belief that I have is, you don't have to stare at the person, but there is interest equated with when somebody is looking at you. It shows that they're interested. I mean, if you want to look away here and there, that's one thing, but she was like really like all over the place. And so I don't know. I don't know if that was like a negative thing or if it was more like of a business professional way of looking at it. But I just remember that because when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes, that's so when I coach my clients, for the most part, it's over the phone,
Right.
because again, we're mentalizing. So if I rubbed my nose, let's just say, right? Um, it could distract the client. It could create, I'm not paying attention. It's very, very fascinating how
Mm.
the mind and the psyche works, and the stories that we tell ourselves. And believe it or not, clients go way deeper when it's on the phone, because they're not worried. They're not. It's just a blank screen.
Right. Yeah.
So the stories that we tell ourselves is very fascinating. I mean, again, I could go into all these different ways, but it goes into our belief system. And I love this one example. Let's just say my I don't like the color green, which I do, but I don't like the color green.
Right.
And my husband, I'm like, come on, get dressed quickly. We need to leave. And he comes out and he's like, all right, let's go. And he's wearing a green shirt. Now, as an example, look at the green shirt, and the fact is he's wearing a green shirt. Anything that we think about the green shirt is a story.
Hmm.
So he comes out in a green shirt, that's a fact. Him wearing a green shirt, he's doing it because he's passive aggressive. He's trying to prove a point. He could be controlling. He doesn't love me anymore. I mean, you can go into a huge story. And really, the truth is, he's just wearing a green shirt.
Right.
So it's very fascinating to pay attention to where we go in our minds. And so there's a session that I do, and it's like based on Debbie Ford's book, The Right Questions, which I highly recommend to everybody. It's
Okay.
really 10 simple questions that are just, they're very simple questions, but they're so simply profound that it's life-changing.
Okay.
And one of the questions in the book is, am I looking for what's right, or am I looking for what's wrong? And
Wow.
just like the example of the green shirt, you know, and it goes into the story. We all do this. We all do it. And we are at the mercy of an unconscious pattern, unconscious behavior, unconscious thought, even an unconscious emotion, until we bring it into the light of our consciousness, and then we get choice.
Oh, wow. What kind of choice? You mean like
We get to choose. So I'll go back to the green shirt analogy, right? Like now that I have this awareness that, well, let's just say in the example, he's passive aggressive. He doesn't love me anymore. Therefore, I must be unlovable, right? So then that's my belief, like, because that's where I go. We all go somewhere. We all do. So once I read the book and I know these questions, I mean, it's just, this is my speak now. This is in my body. So I can ask myself, okay, are you looking for what's right? Or are you looking for what's wrong? Oh, all right. Well, what's right about it? Well, he got dressed fast. Right. So now we can leave the house. So it's just, it could be so simple.
and
But
freeing. It sounds so
yes,
freeing.
because I just wanted to make the point that we expend a lot of energy on the disconnection of ourselves, on hurting ourselves. If you start to pay attention to what the voice of your inner critic is constantly bombarding you with, and I tell my clients for the duration of our coaching sessions, I hold the bat because I have to take the bat away from you. And then I teach you life skills where each week we'll build upon each other, and you're going to see that you get to press mute on the voice of the inner critic. You get to lower the volume. You get to consciously choose to raise the volume on your inner cheerleader. It's so amazing.
It must, I mean, so, well, this is actually going to lead me into my next question, which is what is the difference between an integrative coach and a traditional therapist?
Well, therapy really goes into a lot of the past.
Right.
And, therapists have trainings that some life coaches don't have. I won't work with somebody who is active in addictions or has a mental illness. That's out of my scope.
Right.
I was impeccably trained, no doubt, and I know my limits. So a therapist is somebody that, working with a therapist and counselors is really about, in the past and, delving deep in there. And life coaching is action-based.
It seems as though the integrative coaching starts where you are now, whereas like a therapist will dig and dig and dig and maybe say, okay, well, maybe this is how you are and this is how you are now, let's work on it. And then those results or the way that the therapist is helping that person can be very similar to what you would do. You just are not digging up the past, which I don't know how, excuse me, how important that is. I know therapists feel it's important to have to dig but
so in coaching, the type of coaching that I was trained to do, we do go there because you do need to start to recognize where patterns were and beliefs were born,
sure,
right? Where they come from, and how, so you get to look at your patterns of behavior, your go-to emotions, your that belief system. Oh, I just don't keep you there.
Right.
It just like, oh, that's that. Let's move here.
So when
Um,
let's say are with somebody, or well, you have a client and
mhm,
you have discovered what you believe could have been or could be the issue for this person. Let's say it was a father issue,
mhm.
and you now explain to this client what you believe is the reason why they have developed, some negativity in their life. What sometimes is the response for some people when you're actually facing them with what you believe is the issue and how their behavior has been? Because some people, until they're told, they don't realize how they've been behaving or acting or things they're saying. So do some clients get like this release? Do they cry? I'm just curious about, how they feel once it's kind of discovered.
I mean, I've had every emotion under the sun,
Mm,
and I've heard many different stories. There's a lot of pain in the world.
sure.
Um, the type of coaching that I do is I believe that I know the client, everybody already has all the answers inside of them.
Mm.
So when we go and start taking polls, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? Do you think I should do this? Do you think I should do that? It's really speaks volumes to the lack of self-trust that they had.
Yeah, sure.
So the type of coaching that I do is really teaching, guiding, assisting, di- directing the client to really learn to be self-referred, Julie, to really
Mm,
gain the confidence and to know your own answers. I don't know what's right for you. I
right,
don't I don't know what's right for that person. Your anger, your sadness, your grief looks very different than mine.
right,
So I don't spend time on my calls going, me too.
right.
I felt that. I had the same experience as a child because going back to meaning making that I spoke to in the beginning of the call, me and you can see the same movie, the same picture, the same, hear the same song, and we will interpret it different.
Mm,
Yours is not better or more right than mine, but it's different. So when I'm working with a client and I ask powerful questions, I ask questions, and those questions help the client gain the insight.
mm.
And um and with that, then there's an awareness, and sometimes it's like, wow.
That's
I
it's
mean,
like the
yes,
parting of the Red Sea, or the clouds
yes,
parting on like
yeah,
a rainy day. It's like,
definitely.
ah,
Yeah,
and
listen,
uh,
it happens.
well, that's why I said it must be
Hmm.
very freeing. And when
Hmm.
I was younger,
It can be.
I wish there were integrative coaches when I was younger, but I actually went to go see a behavior therapist for a year.
Hmm.
Because it's a long story and I'm not going to get into it, but just it had to do with family and being proactive in wanting to see kind of who I am and how I am and the ways I react. And I didn't want to continue behaving in the manner I was behaving.
Hmm.
It was exhausting for me
Yeah.
mentally. And I think after 6 months I was doing much better, but I decided to stay for another 6 months. And the skills that I learned were incredible that I still use and apply in everyday
Yeah.
life. And
Great.
yeah, it was really great for me. And I think that anybody who, I think also it's almost, and I shouldn't probably, refer to this word, which is addict, but it's almost like there are some people that are just in denial about how they are, that I've always been curious as to how those people finally come to the realization that they might need some help. Maybe it's a partner or a friend, or maybe over a period of time, people have been have been insinuating certain things about, a certain person's behavior. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
always curious what gets a client to finally come and see you. How does it come out of the
It's
subconscious, where they
it's
realize?
just it's just a moment of readiness. It's like I was a couch potato. I was not feeling well. I was pretty sickly. I was blaming the world for, my life sucking. I was blaming, family. I was blaming friends, lack of them. I was blaming, my kids, whatever,
Right,
because
right.
I wasn't owning my shit. I wasn't owning my brilliance. I wasn't owning myself.
And so what was the
And
turning point for you?
the
What
turning point
that
was
movie, right? You said?
was that movie when it was like, wait a second,
Mm.
I don't have to be in pain. I don't have to be I don't have to be angry, and we could talk about emotions because emotions, but that'll take another hour. But I do want to invite you and anybody that is listening to, recognize, like, how are you with your emotions? Do you allow yourself to feel them? And you know what, Julie? 9 times out of 10, people that are emotional people really aren't allowing themselves permission to feel their own emotions.
Yeah.
So we could talk about that
I
at
know
another time because
there's so
there's
much to cover.
so much, yes.
Well,
But
again,
at the end of the day, when somebody is ready to lower that voice of the inner critic, to really feel better, to want to inquire, getting themselves out of the pattern of blaming and really feel more compassion with themselves and others. I don't have the anger, the rage, the grief that I once had. I always tell my clients, we can never erase a bad memory, a bad experience. It just will always live in our psyche. It will live in our cells. However, we don't need to live in it,
yeah.
and we don't need to allow it to run our lives. And that is the single most sacred gift that I can give to a client, is to let them know that a bad experience does not need to drain their life force anymore.
Well, that is very substantial. I'm sure that if you or when you say things like that, again, I think of freeing. I think of there are certain
Mm-hmm.
words you can use with your clients that can make them go, "Oh, wow."
You know
Like
what I call it? You know what I call it, Julie?
what?
I swear I say this to my clients. It is beyond that it's liberating to our souls.
Yeah.
It really is this like spiritual orgasm.
Oh my
When you make
God. I
peace,
love it.
when you, as I always say that, and I quote Dr. Phil all the time. So
That's a great way to put it. I mean, I can see it going that way. So
yes.
I want to get into talking to you about crystals because I mean it's almost kind of like it's a great combination with what you do with the
Yeah.
integrative coaching and the crystals. And you and I spoke that this is something, the crystals that you've loved since you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
And for those of you who are listening, I mean, I have got to tell you, she knows almost everything there is to know about crystals. I have asked her questions that I don't even know. And she's like, oh yeah, well, this crystal, like she just knows off the top of her head. So maybe you can tell me, do you remember what was such a fascination about crystals? I mean, was it the color? Was it the
I
healing
think
properties? You remember?
I don't, I don't. I remember as a little girl loving marbles. Remember the
I
marbles? Like they were
do.
okay. So I just loved marbles.
Yeah.
Not playing with them, but just the fascination of how pretty they were.
Right.
And then I don't know. I just saw there's some pictures of me as a kid and I'm holding rocks,
Hmm.
and they're just very grounding. And I just always had a love for earth, for the
Hmm.
ground,
Right.
and stones come from the earth.
Right.
And just ever since I was little, it was just something that I was very aligned with, fascinated with, and just needed more and more and more. I have
So
them
did
all over my
you,
house.
I know you do. And guys, she even puts them on her dogs, which is, I love it. So, what did you have like a favorite crystal, or is there like, I know that there are certain crystals that you can have five crystals that do the same thing, but there are also additional elements that a certain crystal might do. I mean, is there, I know what the answer to this question is, but is there a certain crystal or bracelet that you have with you on a daily basis?
I mean, I love anything that's grounding. So you have the hematites, which, yeah, I caught that cue. Yours is on the way. You'll probably
Oh
have
no,
it
I didn't
today.
mean that. I just meant because I
No,
know
I
we
know.
spoke the, oh,
No,
I'm
it's one
always
of my
wearing my
favorites.
bracelet. Yeah, I know.
Yes, I'm wearing it right now, actually.
I
So
see.
hematite is very grounding. Quartz are very grounding. Smoky quartz is grounding. Any of the dark black tourmalines, obsidians, those are very grounding. They're earthy.
Mm.
Um, I even like the rust colors, which are, I think, very earthy too.
I have one of those.
Um,
It's like I might have gotten it from you. I don't remember, but it's like an orangey color. I forget what it's called, but
you have
it's,
to, well, text me a picture.
yeah, well, it's very pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
But my,
I just think that, yes, there are definitely some, many that do the same thing, but it really is your what do you feel most aligned with, and it can switch. I am always hooked up. I always have crystals in my bra, and every day there can be different ones.
sure.
Yeah, I'm hooked up.
I
I'm
remember,
hooked up.
well, I think I might have told you I had a little bit of a scare a few weeks ago. And when I went to get my test results, I had like three or four crystals and I had one in each pocket. I was
Yeah,
holding one in each hand. I was wearing all of my bracelets. I mean, I had it up to my elbow because I just, I wanted like
yeah.
everything on me. But, so is there something that like when, and this is something I read, and I'm curious to hear how you feel
Hmm.
about this, that I have all the different books. And one of the things I remember reading was it's not always about, I need this particular crystal because this is what I need in my life right
Hmm.
now. Sometimes it's about, just like you said, being drawn to a color, like some,
Right.
or just a crystal, like some, a crystal's like calling out your name. Like, how does
Hmm.
that work? If it has no meaning and the crystal and the things that it doesn't apply to what you need in your life, how is it calling you out if it's not something you necessarily need in your life at that moment?
Because then you do need it in your life. You just
Right.
that stone can create an awareness, so you can gain an insight where you didn't think, you know I need more confidence, but you think you're a confident person. I'm just giving you an example.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're attracted to this one stone that's, great for confidence, great for confidence. You're like, I don't need confidence. But if you really stop and hold the stone, maybe there's
Hmm.
something in there for you.
Could
Maybe it
your
is about stopping. What?
I was just going to say, could your energy be passed on to that crystal and then the crystal kind of recognizes it and then gives you what you didn't think you needed from that crystal?
So
I don't know about the
say
whole, yes.
say that again. Say
So
that
like
again.
I was curious if
Hmm.
you have a certain energy. My dog just came through my two doors. He like smashed through. If you, let's say, have a certain crystal, well, let's say you're going to, I'm going to shop with you for crystals. I come to your house
Right.
and I say, oh, I really love this crystal. Like I said, but it doesn't have a meaning in my life, even though you just said, but it does and it could.
Right.
Can I get this crystal in my hand and can it receive my energy versus at the moment me receiving its energy? And by the crystal taking on my energy, could it then kind of determine what that crystal could do for me? Or is it really just about the actual crystal and what it can do for someone? It's basically like, is it based on my energy sometimes, or is it really based on the crystal's energy all the
I
time?
mean that, the answer is going to be a yes and no.
Okay.
Because some of it is intention
Right.
and some of it is intuitive and some of it is, it just is.
Right.
But it's really allowing yourself to get into a quiet place so you can see, hear, and feel the information.
Right.
And, we talked about that also in the coaching, about really, when I told you, like, I guide my clients to really trust their inner knowing. It's the same thing with the stones. There's an inner knowing. So if you touch a stone and you're like,
Yeah.
I was never attracted to that before, but your inner knowing is saying, baby, you may need this,
And that's happened to me in the past. I mean, there were some
Yes.
things where I would just go, oh, I love the color of this. I absolutely like, the amethyst that you sent me. I always
Mm-hmm.
wanted, that type of like a raw amethyst. But when I got it, there was something else that was going on. Like it wasn't anymore about how pretty it was or what it looked like.
Yeah.
It was the
Mm-hmm.
energy that I was getting from it. And I, to this day, have it on my nightstand right next to me every night because of that very first feeling that I got from it, and it was really cool. It
It's so
was,
funny because I just posted today about amethyst
I
on
saw.
my Instagram, and it's real, but it's very versatile. It can
It is.
aid in meditation to connect to, your crown chakra, or even to the universe. I have one next to my bed to help me sleep, along with a blue celestine and a howlite, and my selenite lamp.
You guys
It's
have to check out
also
her website. We'll in a minute, I'll tell you her website.
it's, it's so versatile.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
it is a must-have stone. So I am not particularly super attracted to amethyst. I mean, but I have so many here. But that's not my go-to. However, when it shows up, I
Mm.
guess, to prove, to your point, I do have it on my bed,
Yeah.
by my nightstand. But it's a very versatile stone. So you may think you need it for sleep, but it's actually working in other angles too, because
Exactly.
again, it's very, yeah,
That's what I felt. I couldn't
yeah,
really target any one thing. All I know is that there was something going on inside of me where
yeah.
I started feeling very different, and it is very hard for me to put into words, but that's why I have that one, and I have a few others, the rose quartz and the selenite next to me. But
Yeah, it's
I want to look
nice.
into those lamps because, I
The
keep
lamps are, yeah,
I
I
love that
can't,
lamp. You just
I can't,
that lamp
I,
you just put up. You can't what? You can't hold on to
I,
them.
no, I can't stand how much I love mine.
I
I
love the
just
new
can't stand
one
it.
that you put up that looks like a cone almost.
Yes, yeah,
I love that.
I got rid of my lamps on my nightstand, and those are my nightstand lamps now,
I
because
know.
they're
It's so
doing a
nice.
job,
It
and
is.
they're beautiful, and they give off light. So I
So
got rid of my
I'm sorry. I know that you have to go in a minute, but I just have one more question, which is
yeah.
about, the whole cleansing and setting your intentions. So like if you just cleanse, which I do, because I mean I have the sage, and I'm always using the sound bowl, so they're always kind of charged.
Hmm.
But what if you set your intentions but you don't remember what your intentions were, or you're kind of done but you now need that crystal for something else? Do you have to now cleanse it and set a new intention?
Yeah, if you're going to give
Okay.
it a new job to do, then yes, then you should thank it, right?
Right,
Thank
right.
it. And then also, yes, I would sound bowl it, put it on a windowsill for the, moon, sun and moon. I would do that.
Does it have to
And
be a full moon? I mean, can I just put it on my windowsill in the sunlight and like a
I
half moon?
do it. I do it, and at any time. But I'm not so regimented. So
I haven't
I
really done that. I did it
I
one
think,
time.
listen, I think when it comes to stones, you can't go wrong if you
Right.
have pure intention and respect for Mother Nature. So I just want to say one point. If you break a stone, some people are like, oh my God, what do I do? I throw it out. You don't have to throw it out. Sometimes, hey, now you have an extra stone.
Right.
Or if it doesn't align for you anymore because it's, broken, you can do two things. You can gift it to
Mm,
somebody,
yeah.
and or you could give it back to Mother Earth. So I have
Oh.
a spot in my backyard that some of the broken stones that are just like, or selenites or something, you can actually put in a plant. Rose quartz, if it
Oh.
breaks, you can put it in a plant.
Cool.
So yeah, I have them in my plants too. So I'm just saying, there's things that you can do as long as your intentions are pure. There's respect. You can't go wrong.
So what if you don't set an intention? Will the crystal still do its primary job?
They'll do a
Or
job for
okay.
sure, because there's still healing elements to it.
Right. Because I don't always set intentions for all of my crystals and my stones. I mean, it might be a select few, or I might just cleanse them and not set any intentions and just put them around,
Or
here and
maybe the
there.
intention is just to, give off your healing frequency, you know?
It
May,
could be.
yeah, I mean, there's
Never thought of that.
I have so many stones. There's absolutely no way that I can do a specific intention for every stone. So I just say, do
Right.
your thing.
Do your
Do your
thing.
thing. Yeah, do your thing. And they do, and I honor them. I mean, I have way too many. My husband will say, no, no, no more, no more.
Right. I know. I can't imagine. I mean, I had this discussion with you where I was like, my husband's going to kill me if I spend more money on getting crystals. And I
Yeah.
can't even imagine how many more you have than I have.
But
So it's like I have a
but
small
it,
collection.
but the house feels good, the
That's all that
house feels
matters. It's
good. Yeah, and
balance.
I like it, right? It's
All
balanced.
right. So listen, tell everybody how they can see you or touch base, like social media or any
Yeah,
websites you might have.
you could Facebook me, Shari Coltune. You can Instagram. On Instagram, it's if you want the crystals, it's a gem shop. For coaching, you could go to Shari underscore Coltune coaching on Instagram. And I believe, and my website is sharicoltune.com, and it's a gemshop.com. So
Perfect. And
yeah,
I guess if they go to one place, like if they go onto Facebook, you might have some information there about where else they can go,
yes,
like online. Well, this
yeah,
has been fun.
it's
And
so
hey guys,
fun.
I'm not
Thank
kidding. She's like awesome at everything she does. So give her a shout out, whether it's crystals or if you need a really awesome integrative coach. I mean, she's really that good. So I'm so glad we were able
Yeah,
to
I
do
would
this.
offer, if anybody's interested, just reach out and we can do a 30-minute discovery session, and just see if it aligns for you. I'm also going to be starting a group coaching, with
Ooh,
no more than 3, maybe 4 people tops, starting March, I think the first week of March. And that's going to be fun too. It's a nice little sacred community, and it is
cool.
on Zoom, and you will get
Awesome.
one-on-one with me, but there'll be a group element as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So guys, honestly, reach out to her if you need any integrative coaching and even if you don't need crystals, you do. So just
I
contact her.
like that.
All right, Sherry, thank you
All
so
right.
much. All right, you have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
All
All
right.
right,
Talk to you
take
soon.
care.
Thanks so much. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.